The theme for this week's show is Never Give Up. It's a theme that pops up time and time again in Heisman history. Heisman winners have often started out overlooked or pushed to the side, underestimated or taken for granted. They've come from the smallest of forgotten towns and from the roughest parts of the biggest cities and from the other side of the world. They've faced the heavy pressure of satisfying unsatisfiable fan bases. They've pushed through the intense glare of the media spotlight. And they've exceeded the lofty expectations of their coaches. Some of them survived wars. Yet, to a man, they all found the fortitude and determination to overcome all obstacles and reach the pinnacle of their sport. Some Heisman winners didn't do much in their college careers until that final Heisman-winning season. Then, they found redemption. Some fought through injuries and had to struggle to reclaim their considerable talents. Then, they found glory. Others found themselves in the most dire situations a football team can be in, yet they dug themselves and their teams out, and they were better because of it. Others rode the wave of their natural talents and served as majestic examples for how college football should be played. Some of these Heisman winners have used the trophy as a platform for improving society and inspiring others to do the same. And others have discovered that the power of the Heisman extends beyond the gridiron and back to these small towns and big cities and even to the other side of the world. Indeed, it takes a special type of human being to accomplish the things that a Heisman winner accomplishes. So the next time you look at the Heisman Trophy race, consider what the various candidates have gone through to get to this point. Consider all the hard work that's gone into it, all the pressure that's been overcome, and how much of their bodies and minds they've sacrificed to get there. And it's important to remember that while only one player can hoist the bronze statue at the end of the year, they never gave up.
Welcome to the official Heisman Trophy Podcast.
Hello. Chuck Conrad with a kickoff. Roy Evans, strong leg, end over end. Sanders takes it 1 yard deep to the end zone. Up the middle, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45, 40. Holy moly! 50, 10, 5, touchdown. Like last year, a same.
And the winner is...
Here's your host, Chris Houston.
Welcome to episode 4 of the official Heisman Trophy Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Houston, and today we'll be talking to one of the best running backs in the country, a senior out of the University of Michigan, Blake Corum. Corum is once again healthy after suffering a late season knee injury last year, and I think you're going to enjoy hearing from this impressive young man. And then later on, we're talking to 1996 Heisman Trophy winner from the University of Florida, Danny Wuerffel. And if you watch college football in the 1990s, you're going to really enjoy this interview. But first, like we always do, let's take a little trip around the Heisman world.
It's the Heisman Roundup, Week 2.
Week 2 of the college football season brought us some huge matchups and some big-time performances. But no game had bigger marquee value than number 3 Alabama hosting number 11 Texas, where Longhorns quarterback Quinn Ewers stole the show. The sophomore passed for 349 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a fourth-quarter 39-yard strike to A.D. Mitchell that provided the final scoring in a 34-24 victory for Texas. He also connected with Xavier Worthy on this 44-yard pass for the game's first touchdown.
Ewers from the pocket, now he'll loft one downfield, a ton of air, running underneath it, Worthy's got it for a touchdown!
Wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. helped the Ohio State offense get on track with a huge performance and a 35-7 victory over Youngstown State. The junior caught 7 passes for 160 yards and 2 scores, including a 71-yard touchdown pass that opened the game scoring less than 90 seconds in.
Open, Harrison! Marvin Harrison Jr. No chance! Touchdown, Ohio State!
Miami quarterback Tyler Van Dyke had a career day in leading the Hurricanes to a 48-33 win over number 23 Texas A&M, throwing for 374 yards and a personal best 5 touchdowns. That included a fourth-quarter 64-yard scoring dagger to Jacoby George to clinch the win. Van Dyke discussed his improvement after the game.
I feel accuracy-wise I'm the best I've ever been. Seeing the defense, I'm the best I've ever been. I'm seeing it really well right now.
North Carolina squeaked by Appalachian State in 2 overtimes and needed every bit of running back Omarion Hampton's career-best 234 yards. The The sophomore bolted for 3 touchdowns, including this 68-yard run to put Carolina on the board.
Hampton wide open running. 30, 25, 20, 10, 5, touchdown Carolina.
In a game twice delayed by lightning, Miami of Ohio receiver Gage Larvadan struck repeatedly, catching 8 passes for 273 yards and 3 touchdowns to lead the Redhawks to a 41-28 win over UMass. That total included this 99-yard catch-and-run touchdown.
Looking for Larvadan again in stride. He's got it, and he is off to the races across the 50, 40, 30. Larvadan, another huge play to the end zone. 99 yards. Touchdown, Miami.
And quickly, a little nod to 2021 Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young, who made his NFL regular season debut against Atlanta on Sunday. The Panthers lost, but Young connected on his first career NFL TD pass. The first of many, we're sure. Now it's time for this week's trivia question. Last week's trivia question was won by James Pardo of Los Angeles, California. I had asked whose Heisman total touchdown record Mike Rozier broke in 1983. And the answer was Frank Sinkwich of Georgia, who won the Heisman in 1942. Remarkably, his 26 total touchdowns that year stood for 41 years as a Heisman record. Of course, Rozier's record has since been broken and is jointly held by Sam Bradford and Marcus Mariota at 53. Now on to this week's question. Just email pod@heisman.com with your answer, and we'll send you out a Heisman hat or a Heisman duffel bag. Ready? Here we go. Name the first Heisman winner to have his announcement broadcast live on national television. Once again, the first player to be announced as the Heisman Trophy winner on live national television. Send your answer to pod@heisman.com. That's pod@heisman.com. And the first correct answer gets a Heisman hat or a Heisman duffel bag. Our first guest this week is another Big Ten player and one of the best running backs in the country. Last year, he rushed for 1,463 yards and 18 touchdowns. But it was a season cut short by a meniscus tear in his team's 11th game. At the time, it seemed a very good likelihood that this player would be going to New York as one of the Heisman finalists. But after a long off-season of rehabilitation, he's back, and he's already scored 4 touchdowns this year. We caught up with him after Game 1 last week, so let's jump right in. Blake Corum, running back, University of Michigan. Welcome back to college football, and thanks for coming on the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
I appreciate you for having me.
You had 10 carries for 73 yards in your first game with a touchdown against East Carolina. You came on the first series. You guys were backed up against the goal line. What was it like coming back? What was going through your mind on that first play?
Yeah, it felt good being back in the big house. Last time I was in the big house, it's not fond memories. Went down right before half, ended up getting surgery. So just being back in the environment, with my guys, with the fans, it was great. Obviously not being backed up was great, but it was just great being back out there and playing ball again.
Did you feel pretty confident with your knee?
Yeah, I felt very confident. Like I told everyone else, that was my first time, actually getting hit, since surgery. I didn't get hit during camp. So I needed that game. I needed that game to, get back in the rhythm of things, get back to, cutting, on the dime, getting hit, lowering the shoulder, So it felt good being back in the environment. It felt good, my knee getting twisted a couple of times, letting myself know, all right, hey, this thing's good to go. You know what I'm saying? It's back to normal. So, like I said, the knee feels good. I think it was great for my knee, and overall, it just felt great being back. Before the second series, you guys did a tribute to Coach Harbaugh. What was that all about, or how did that come about, I should say? Yeah, Coach Moore brought that up to us at the beginning of the week, ECU week, and he's like, we're going to pay tribute to Coach Harbaugh by getting into pencil, something they did back in the day, and throwing up our fours. And, that's what we did. We paid tribute to Coach Harbaugh since, he wasn't there last week and won't be there, the next 2 weeks. Just honoring, all the work that he does for us and having a great head coach. What did it mean for you to be named a team captain this year? That's like I told everyone, that might be the most honorable thing, I've gotten, in my however many years of playing football. I've been team captain before, but being team captain on this level, on a Michigan team, it goes a long way. It means a lot. It's truly an honor, being able to be named a captain of the University of Michigan football team. And there's some great captains, in the past, and it shows, how much they trust you. It shows all the work that, doesn't go unnoticed. It meant a lot to me, and it still does.
Has it changed how you relate to your teammates?
Nah, not at all. Something about me, I'm always consistent. I'm always going to be Blake Corum, whether, I'm team captain or I'm not. I'm still going to work, as hard as possible each and every day. I'm still going to act the same. I'm still going to, be serious when I need to be serious and, play around with the guys when it's time to play. I never change, for no one. I'm always me, so that being team captain didn't change anything, but it's just an honor, being named, team captain.
You and Coach Hart share a lot of the same physical characteristics. I remember him always running with great forward lean and always keeping his legs churning. What has he taught you about being a running back?
He's taught me a lot, and we do have similar characteristics. We're not the biggest people on the field whatsoever, but, our heart, our desire to just be great, our work ethic, our low center of gravity, our ability to, cut, on a dime, elusiveness, he's taught me a lot, and just from an IQ standpoint of, how to read defenses, what to look at before a snap, if they're under, and we're running inside zone, depending on the team, obviously, but all right, pre-snap read, all right, the ball might go here, just all giving me nuggets, and I watch him a lot, I watch him, I'll pull up some YouTube highlights, or it was a little while ago, I was watching the Penn State game that he played in, I think it was like 06 or something like that, but, he's the greatest to ever do it here, so, just taking whatever I can from him and applying it to my game, I'm blessed that, Coach Hart came and became the running back coach here going into my sophomore year. He's been a great asset to the team, not only in the running back room, just in the team in general.
Well, he leads all Michigan rushers in his career with 5,040 yards. You've got 2,492 coming into this year, and you're knocking on the door of that top 10. So do you have any personal goals as far as where you want to finish in that top 10?
I just want to finish as high as possible. I'm not going to get to 5,000, yards. That's a lot of yards and that's a lot of carries. I'm not going to reach 5,000, but, if I can, be up there, in the top 5, top 7, and then touchdowns, I'm not sure where I'm at, but I know, I think the leader has like 51 touchdowns. I believe I might be at like 32. But if I can get like second in touchdowns behind, whoever, I think Coach Hart may be at like 41 or something like that. So if I can pass Coach Hart in something, that means a lot. But he's the greatest, so it's, I just want to be the best version of myself, best possible, when it's all said and done. I just want to be up there with the greats.
Sounds like you've studied up a little bit on your Michigan history. Is that something you started doing when you first committed or first signed, or is this something you've kind of picked up along the way?
Nah, I mean, you just see things, you might get tagged in something, or, a notification might pop up on your Twitter feed and you might click on it. Oh, Blake Corum is, this far away. And, it's just things you see when, you're on the gram or you're on Twitter. You're like, oh, I didn't even know I was that close, or I didn't even know, that was the record, you know what I'm saying? I knew Coach Hart had the record, I didn't have to look any of that up. I knew who the record holder was, in terms of rushing yards. But, you just see it from time to time.
When you decided to come back to Michigan after getting hurt, you made a list of pros and cons. What did that list look like?
There were too many pros and not enough cons for me coming back. For one, unfinished business. We have a special team here at Michigan, especially this year. We have a lot of returning guys. And, we've gone to the CFP twice, and, we just haven't been able to get over that hump. And I believe we can, and so, in that aspect, it was just unfinished business. You only get college football once, and, I want to make the most of my opportunity here. And for two, I want to leave as a legend. I don't want to leave as, just a good running back, but I want to be remembered forever, man. I want to be remembered, in the football field. I want to be remembered in the community with all, the community events I do. I just want to go down in history as a Michigan legend, not just Blake Corum, the running back, from 2020 to 2024, I came back to get my degree. So I have my degree, the first to do it in my family. That goes a long way. So, there was too many pros in coming back and not enough cons for me to leave.
What's the best part about playing college football?
The best part about playing college football is, the fans, the teammates, the brotherhood that you form over the, 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years that you're here. These are really your brothers, you know what I'm saying? In the league, people might get cut, you might form a relationship with a dude, and the next day you wake up, if he played for, say, the Cowboys, he could be in like Arizona, so, obviously, you still have the transfer portal, but you build a brotherhood with these guys that's going to last a lifetime. And being able to, just train with them each and every day in the summer. You know what I'm saying? In the NFL, everyone goes their separate ways and trains, Here, you train with your guys in the summer. You sweat, you cry, you have blood, sweat, and tears, as they say. And then the fan base, it's crazy. Especially here in Michigan, the fans, it's an incredible amount of love here. They really look out for you. It's nothing like college football.
Yeah, you've been very committed to philanthropy while you've been at Michigan, delivering turkeys to the needy, among other endeavors. What's your long-term vision when it comes to giving back?
Eventually, I want to start my own nonprofit. I probably could do it right now. I haven't done it yet. But, that's something I'm going to do the rest of my life. I plan on giving turkeys away the rest of my life. I plan, like this year, right now I'm planning a big Christmas giveaway that would go to, moms and single moms, children that, don't know if they'll wake up with presents under the tree, just always trying to put a smile on someone's face, change someone's, life if I can. Just working with a bunch of good people, and do God's will, I'm a firm believer in God, and I believe He put me on this earth to, use my platform to give back. And so, I'm going to bring as many people as I can into my close circle to help as many people as we can to, give them a better life, I guess you could say, or just even a smile. I think that's very important. So, I'm going to do community service my whole life because I feel like that's my purpose here. And, hopefully I can change some people's lives along the way.
When did you start getting involved in community service?
When I was a kid, honestly, I was brought up in the church. So, I was always giving back to the church. And being from the country, there's a difference, between country and city life. But I went to school in the city. And, you would see a lot of homeless people on the corners and stuff like that, and even I play youth ball in the city too. So, when we would go down to the city, I'm like, Dad, we have a few bucks. Can we give it to this homeless person? And at the time I didn't have money, but I wanted to give back, and not that you need money to give back because you don't, but, that's what I wanted to do. And now with NIL, it's kind of just carried along my whole life, but now I'm able to make money. So I'm able to, do a little more with the money that, I'm receiving. And so, but it started from when I was a kid, the way my parents brought me up.
You seem to be a natural entrepreneur. Speaking of your parents, they seem to have instilled in you natural flair for it. You and your dad bought a house together earlier in the year. Where did this business mentality come from?
Yeah, I've learned a lot from my dad, from him starting his business and to where it's at right now. And then, we've always been into real estate. My dad's had a couple properties throughout my lifetime, and I read a lot of real estate books. Because one thing is that there's never going to be any more land that's going to be built. So buy it while you can. And after reading a lot of real estate books, talking to a lot of great alum, from the University of Michigan, my dad and I purchased our first house. We did it up, and we actually just bought another one 2 weeks ago. But just going into him teaching me, how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a good salesman, and just watching him, create his business, like I said, from nothing and turn into something, was always, something I looked up to, and I want to be an entrepreneur myself. And why not start now with, the blessings of NIL, set myself up for the future. So when my career is over, I have something to fall on. I don't have to, feel like I'm starting from the bottom. I just go right into the next career.
Did you actually personally help refurbish that house?
Nah, I didn't personally, have the time because I was here, doing rehab on my knee, getting ready for the season. He just showed me along the way, and him and his crew, they did it when they weren't working on things with his business. They were over at the house, redoing it and stuff. So it was cool to see the process, the ins and outs. Like, you think things are going to go a certain way and they don't go that way. How are you going to panic, or are you just going to do what needs to be done? So it was cool seeing the process of how it was being done, though.
Do you know the number one rule of real estate?
What's that?
Location, location, location.
That is true. And let me tell you, we have great locations on both. One being on Main Street in Marshall, Virginia. We actually just bought a historical house in Marshall, Virginia, with a big building in the back. There used to be a movie theater back in the day.
How old?
It was built in 1922.
100 years old.
It's an older one. It's an older one for sure. It needs a little bit of work, but we have some plans not only for the house but the building in the back.
Okay.
And then the one we bought in Warrenton, that's in Old Town Warrenton, walking distance of a bunch of restaurants. So, like you said, location is key. I
read that you also want to eventually get into sports broadcasting. Is that still the case?
Oh, correct.
Who are some of your favorite sportscasters?
I like a bunch of guys. But my favorite right now, I don't necessarily want to be, to the 30, to the 20, to the 10. I want to be more so like a Stephen A. Smith, talk about all types of sports, I kind of have like my own show. That's the avenue I want to go down.
Uh-huh.
But it's going to take some time to get there. But, when my career is done said, I definitely want to get into broadcasting. I love being in front of cameras. I feel like I have a lot of great input.
Yeah.
So, I love, watching shows like that, like First Take and, Sports Center, just all those shows,
What's a controversial take or a position you hold that isn't popular with your friends or the world?
Well, recently we kind of had, obviously, the running backs pay in the NFL. We that's kind of popular, but we've been talking about it in the facility, and even though me personally, I don't think it's necessarily right. There's why complain about it. There's nothing you can do about it. Is what I'm trying to say, and being a running back, it'd be easy for me to complain and be like, why? What's that doing for me? It's only going to put me in a bad mood, and, I'm all about vibes, and I don't let the uncontrollable things, control me. So that's kind of my take on it. Hopefully it changes in the future. But as of right now, especially being in college still, I don't necessarily worry about that because it's uncontrollable.
So what are some of your earliest Heisman memories or memories about the Heisman?
Memories about the Heisman. Obviously, it's the best collegiate award you can get, That's the way I look at it. And to be quite frankly, like I never even, like until last year, I never even thought about winning the Heisman. Obviously I thought about, it'd be cool, but it was never in, my line of sight. I was always just about winning, always about the team, and when it popped up last year, I might have been in the race and whatnot. It was amazing, and, it's obviously, the best award you can win in college. And my boy Caleb won it last year. We trained a lot when we were younger together. So it was good seeing him win it. That's kind of, what I know about the Heisman.
Maybe we can have 2 DMV winners in a row, huh?
Hey, that'd be great.
Who's your favorite Heisman winner?
Who's my favorite Heisman winner? I've seen a couple over the years. I got to go with the Michigan guys, even though I can't name them right now.
What about Heisman running backs?
Heisman running backs?
I feel like Barry Sanders is kind of right up your alley.
Barry Sanders is my favorite running back for sure. Before my time, I didn't get to see him win the Heisman. Mark Ingram won it, right? Mark Ingram won it, yep. Yeah, Mark Ingram. He was up there. I liked watching him. I was able to watch him a little bit. I'll probably say Mark. I liked his game out of college.
Vote for Mark Ingram. Okay. Well, Blake Corum, thanks for joining us on the official Heisman Trophy podcast. So great to see you out there again, looking healthy and doing well. And we wish you the best of luck for yourself and for your team.
I appreciate you guys for having me.
You just heard University of Michigan running back Blake Corum. He and the Michigan Wolverines will be taking on Bowling Green this Saturday. Be sure to check him out.
Hello, this is Tim Brown, 1987 Heisman Trophy winner, and you're listening to the official Heisman Podcast.
The Florida Gators host the Tennessee Volunteers in what should be a key SEC matchup this weekend. 27 years ago, it was the same matchup, except it was up in Knoxville. Those were 2 outstanding teams, and of course there were 2 outstanding quarterbacks facing off that day. For Tennessee, it was Peyton Manning, who was the Heisman runner-up in 1997, and for Florida, it was Danny Wuerffel, who would go on to win the Heisman Trophy in 1996. We had a nice talk with Wuerffel recently, and he told us about his entire career. Plus, we got the lowdown on his latest obsession, pickleball. Danny Wuerffel, thanks for coming on the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So I want to go back to the beginning a bit when you were growing up, and you were the son of an Air Force chaplain, and you moved around a lot before settling in at Fort Walton Beach, Florida. How did that experience shape your perspective growing up?
Well, it was tough, being a kid, and every 3 years or so, we would pack up and leave. So you kind of get your friends, you establish your spot on the team, and then that all changes, and you move somewhere new and try to do it again. But for me, there's a couple things that really stood out. First of all, sports made that so much easier. You show up in a new place, and if you play a sport and you're on a team, it's like you got buddies pretty quickly. And so I think sports really helped me develop and transition in all those cases. The other thing that just personally has helped me a lot in my life is when you live in different parts of the country, even overseas. We lived in Spain for 3 years. You realize that a lot of people think about and do life different than you do. Mm-hmm. And it's not wrong. It's just different. I think we naturally suspect anything that's really different from us to be worse or wrong. But there's just a lot of ways people do life differently. I mean, in Spain, they sleep in the afternoon, right, when we're all thinking we're supposed to be productive, and then they stay up later and have late dinners, and it works for them, and the South is different than the North. And so that's something that's really helped me in my life, is that a lot of people can be different, but we can still get along.
Were you in Rota, Spain? Is that where the base was?
No, we were in Torrejon, Spain, which was about an hour outside of Madrid.
Ah, okay. Did you really enjoy seeing all of the Spanish countryside and the various cities?
Oh, we loved it. We got to see a lot of Europe back then, and the old castles and the ruins. We loved to look at that stuff. And then, of course, for me then, it was all soccer. I mean, you threw a baseball at a kid over there, and they'd bounce it off their chest and kick it back to you. So it was I was an early soccer player and loved it.
Did you learn to speak Spanish while you were there?
I did a little bit, learned Spanish when I was young, and then ended up taking Italian in college, which I'm not sure why I did that. And then I lived in Germany when I played for the NFL's Europe League. So I'm just a big, complicated, confused language person, but definitely learned some Spanish when I was little.
Ho studiato italiano anche.
Oh, molto bene.
Oh, nice. You were considered the top recruit in the state of Florida your senior year. What schools were recruiting you the hardest?
At the end, I visited Alabama, Florida State, and Florida. Was super impressed with all three. I took my visit to Alabama, and I thought, I love Gene Stallings. I'm going to Alabama. Mm-hmm. And then the next week, I went to Florida State, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Bobby Bowden's amazing. Florida State's amazing. I'm going to Florida State. And then I went to Florida, and I think, oh man, now it's complicated. Coach Spurrier, he's one of a kind, and Florida's an amazing school, and it got more complicated. But in the end, one, the chance to play for Steve Spurrier as a quarterback coach was just an incredible opportunity. And two, the University of Florida is an incredible academic institution. It's currently a top 5 public university in the country. And, getting a degree from there, I thought to myself, if I didn't play football, which school would I go to? And it would have been Florida.
What was it like to be recruited by Steve Spurrier?
It was funny. I mean, he'd show up, he'd play videos of Shane Matthews making some bad throws and be like, man, you made that throw. And I mean, he had me believing that I was better than Shane Matthews when I was in high school. And then he'd also, he just popped down the statistics from everywhere he's been. And the amount of yards and passing yards and touchdowns was just unbelievable. But I remember getting to Florida and then watching Shane Matthews practice. I'm like, this guy's amazing. How in the world did I think I was even close to this guy? But
right.
Spurrier was a great recruiter and definitely got me to go to UF.
Since you mentioned Bobby Bowden, what was it like to talk to him and hear his pitch?
I grew up having a lot of respect for Bobby Bowden. My older sister went to Florida State. I was probably leaning to Florida State more throughout the recruiting process. He's a man of faith, did a lot of speaking at Fellowship of Christian Athletes types of things, which I was involved in. And so I was very, very impressed and with the whole thing. I mean, it was a tough call to not go to Florida State. But of course, looking back, I'm super grateful I made clearly the right choice.
So your first 2 seasons, you and Terry Dean rotated a lot. Now, Spurrier was he wasn't averse to rotating his quarterbacks and doing the quick hook. And then in 94, Dean got off to this really hot start. And then you had that Auburn game and he threw 4 interceptions. And from that point, you seemed to pretty much take over the job. Was that a stressful situation knowing that you could be yanked at any time, or was it also a great motivator to rise to the occasion to sort of fend off your competition?
Probably a little bit of both. I remember early on I threw an interception and I thought the receiver had run the route not exactly right. So I wondered if Spurrier was going to be mad at me or the receiver. And I get to the sideline and he said, Danny, don't worry. It's not your fault. So I was like, whew. He goes, it's my fault for putting you in there. And took me out. So he was definitely quick on that early. I think especially my freshman year, I was just happy to get on the field. It was like, if I played 10 plays or 20 plays or half the game, it was all better than nothing. I think, as going into my sophomore year when Terry got the nod to start and was doing all the playing, that was tough. But then once that Auburn game had come for a variety of reasons, I really got the chance to play the rest of that year and then led into the next couple of years. So getting a lot of experience in both my freshman and sophomore year, I think was really critical for the success I had kind of in my junior and senior year.
That must have been a great lesson to learn because Terry had thrown 18 touchdown passes to that point before the Auburn game, and people were talking about him as a Heisman candidate. And then suddenly it was just like that. It was gone. Was that one of those things where you look at that at the time and you're like, no matter how good I am, no matter how good things are going, it could be taken away really quickly?
Yeah, well, that's definitely in the back of your mind. I think there are some situational things around that experience that were a little bit different. I think Coach Spurrier really going forward really went out of his way to just really try to give me confidence. I remember going into the Florida State game at the end of my sophomore year. Derek Brooks, the great, amazing linebacker for Florida State, made the comment, "Oh, Danny's starting, but we plan to see Terry by halftime." And Spurrier, we had a Thanksgiving meal at his house 2 days before the Florida State game. He came up to me and he said, "Yeah, did you hear what Derek said?" He said, "I tell you what, when you see him before the game, you tell him he's going to be dealing with you the whole time." So that was a great feeling. And I think that was the game that we got ahead 31-3, and then they came back and tied us. So
right.
Maybe we should have put Terry in.
It's funny, as an outsider looking in, you look at Spurrier and you see that, okay, maybe he's difficult to play for, but at the same time, when he has your back, it must feel amazing because that means you really earned it, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, he was a one of a kind. I mean, his ability to be so much about details and yet also somehow be flexible. Like, he'd create plays at halftime and other coaches would need like 3 years to study something before they'd put a new play in. And then yet on certain things, the precision of which he demanded, the quarterback steps and timing and eyes and the receiver routes were so amazing. I mean, it was just unbelievable to get the chance to play with and for him. And, he was a tough coach. He demanded, really pushed you beyond what you could do. But I tell you what's really fun is winning. And it's amazing. We won so much through those years, and we had so much success, and his innovation at offense was just ideal for kind of how my brain worked, and my particular skill set just fit there really well. So it's great. I mean, our relationship is so great even to this day. He just came a few weeks ago. My wife graduated from Florida with her master's degree, and he came to the party and celebrated and said nice things about my wife. He's like a grandfather now to us.
That's awesome. I kind of wonder about the system that he ran. What was so unique about that offense and the philosophy of the fun and gun?
I think he believed, and different people have different ideas, but if you know what coverage a defense is playing, you can design plays to have a really good chance to beat that defense. But if you don't, your play might be dead. Versus there's other systems where you may have a play that's okay against every defense, but it's never terrible. Right. So you kind of always have a slight chance to succeed, but it kind of mitigates your risk. Well, he was always about figuring out what defense they were going to be in, and or having the quarterback see it and audible and putting you in the most advantageous play with the intent of throwing deep. Like, there's no read short if it's covered, look deep in his offense almost at all. In many offenses, that's the case. You've got, if the flat's open, throw it, bam. Well, what if the corner was open? I don't care. Throw it flat, get the completion. Well, you throw a 5-yard pass in Spurrier's offense, and there was a 20-yard pass open, he's not happy. So I think it was very much that mindset, and he just had a unique way of, by using formations and personnel, getting in situations where you could predict what coverage the defense was going to run. And if you could predict your coverage, you were in trouble. And
a lot of it was throwing to spots, right?
Absolutely. When it came to zone defenses, every zone defense has its weak spot, where there's more grass, and then you're trying to put the pressure on one defender and get him caught in between two different spaces of grass and throw it on time and to the spot. When you get it more into man coverage, it's more of just winning the route and winning the throw more so, but definitely timing, spots, spacing, all was a big part of his offense.
You and the Gators had an outstanding season in '95, and you finished a strong third in the Heisman. But of course, things kind of ended on a tough note with the loss in Nebraska. What was that offseason like afterwards, heading into your senior season? How did you and your teammates dig in and come back even better the next year?
Yeah, that was a really tough time. I think a lot of people would say, man for man, the 95 Florida team was a better team than the 96 team. And we lost. We got crushed by Nebraska in the national championship game. And, they played a particular style of defense, kind of press man, outside leverage, cover one press type of thing. And we just didn't do well with it. So I think everyone thought they had the formula to beat Spurrier and Wuerffel. Well, we spent the whole offseason working on that, and we came out ready for that and saw a lot of that, but we were able to really transition that. I think, we learned a lot that year that the next year we did differently, even all the way up to the preparation for the championship game. So I think we just grew, we learned, and we had a few things shape up well for us my senior year outside of our control that helped.
That 96 game at Tennessee with Peyton Manning at quarterback was a huge game in front of 107,000 fans, which was a record for a game at the time.
Yeah.
Most teams would be rattled going into that environment, but you guys came in and jumped out to a 35-0 lead, and you threw 4 touchdown passes, and you kind of held them off from there. It's funny, though, you look at the stats, and you would think that your stats would be, like you would have thrown a lot, but you only threw 22 times in that game. Only had 11 completions, and 4 of them were for touchdowns. And as an outsider looking in, that just showed to me how calm and collected that team was, and also how you seemed to have a bit of a mental edge against the Volunteers in that period. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, you look at all those games, and it definitely seemed like it, especially as good as Tennessee was for so long, that we were able to kind of win that game early in the season. Definitely a pivotal game for us, and to win that 4 in a row is pretty amazing for my 4 years there. That particular game was unique. It was pouring down rain at the beginning, which historically had not gone well for us or for me. Personally, I had just had a unique experience. Was doing a devotion with a group of people right before that game on the Friday morning before we left. And just the whole thing was about having a supernatural sense of peace in the middle of chaos. And I remember even on the first drive, we called timeout. It was like 3rd and 12, and I thought we'd punt, but no, Coach Spurrier's going for it, and it's pouring down rain. And as I was on the sideline kind of waiting to see what was going to happen, I just had this vision, this really awesome experience that just left me with an overriding sense of peace. It was like, this is a really big deal on one hand. You got 107,000 people, the most ever. Whoever wins this game is going to win the SEC. Whoever wins this game is probably going to win the Heisman. And yet something else kind of came over me that, like, you know what? In the big scheme of things, this is just a football game.
Yeah.
And there's other things that probably matter more. It was this deep spiritual kind of faith-based peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back out there and he calls a 15-yard middle route to get the first down, but the safety cheated up to cover it. So I threw the post over and big touchdown, and we go on to win the game.
Wow. What were you at that point? You had been to New York in '95 for the Heisman ceremony. Were you thinking about the Heisman going into that year, or was it something that developed as the year went along?
Now, the Heisman's a really interesting thing because they call it the Heisman race, but like you're not lining up on a track with 5 other guys and running. It's you just play your football games and other people vote.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty easy thing to not, think about because you weren't training for the Heisman race. But some of the things I did that I think really helped is my senior year, I didn't read any newspapers, magazines, or watch any TV. So I was really focused on, what happened in practice, what happened in school, and what happened in the games is pretty much where I lived. And I think that really helped me to not get too excited when there were good moments or too frustrated when there were bad moments. And I also want to credit Coach Spurrier here because there's a lot of schools and a lot of coaches that really do Heisman campaigns. Like they're really putting their player out there, which I think is helpful. But in our case, it was almost like intentional effort not to. Like it was like, this is not what we're doing. We're winning football games. And, if that happens, great. And so that, to me, really, really helped. It was like a distant rumblings throughout the year, but I was focused on, 3rd and 10 and what do we do on first down and what does this defense do? And I think that really helped me that year.
And had to help also to have a coach who had won the Heisman as well to kind of be in your ear, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been there. He knew the ropes. And I think he was just trying to keep us focused on what mattered.
Yeah. That Florida State game that year, tough loss, 24-21. You got sacked 6 times. I think you were hit 32 times. I remember watching that game, and they really put a beating on you. Those ends, that D-line for Florida State was pretty outstanding. Now, you guys did bounce back, but was that the toughest loss you had as a Gator at that time?
Yeah, I mean, the game itself was brutal. Our opinion of Bobby Bowden was slightly changed. My dad and Mickey Andrews, they were just beating the tar out of me.
Yeah.
Mickey Andrews was the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of conversation around a lot of those hits were late, which, at the time I think they were. But if you look at them now, like people would have gotten thrown out and
sure
fined. But they beat us. I mean, they beat us down. We lost that game. And at the time, it felt like the worst thing ever because, to lose the last regular season game in 1996 basically guaranteed you had no chance to win a national title. Maybe if you lost early, but to lose then and to have 5 other undefeated teams ahead of you, there's no way. So to me, one of the most unique things in my whole college career that I'm really proud of is that next week, everybody was down. The coaches were down.
Mm-hmm.
And I would credit a group of the senior players, James Bates, Lawrence Wright, a few of us, I think really made an effort to get the spirits back up because we were playing an amazing Alabama team who was undefeated for a SEC championship. And we rallied, a big adjustment. Coach Spurrier added the shotgun, which we rarely ran at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we beat Alabama. So they there was only a few teams ahead of us. And then Nebraska strangely lost to Texas, which no one saw that coming. So now there was just a couple other teams ahead of us. And then I think Arizona State in the bowl game lost to Ohio State. No one saw that coming.
Right.
And at the end, there was only one undefeated team left, Florida State, and we got to play them in a rematch. So it was just this incredible series of events that landed for us to have that chance to go play.
All the dominoes fell into place perfectly. So were you surprised when you did win the Heisman Trophy? You hadn't been paying attention very much, or did you again have that sense of calm, thinking that whatever was going to happen was going to happen?
I was pretty calm. I think also there's several other awards that get announced first, and often those sort of give a good indication. So I certainly wasn't expecting, but I was hopeful and thoughtful. It was actually a very close Heisman race. Troy Davis had rushed for 2,000 yards 2 years in a row, which when you're the only thing going on your team and you can still rush for 2,000 yards is pretty special. So it was a very close race in the end, but it was just a super exciting time. Coach Spurrier was there. My high school coach who was coaching at Florida was there. My family, just an incredible weekend. I'll never forget Jerry Spurrier, Steve Spurrier's wife, came up to me afterwards and she had tears in her eyes and she's just like, Danny, you won't know for years what this means in your life. And I kind of thought, I kind of think I do maybe, but she was right. You just don't know the impact that winning this particular award will have, not just on that year or for a few years, but like forever. Like I could win a Nobel Peace Prize. I could do something dumb and end up in jail, and I'll still be known as the Heisman Trophy winner. Isn't that crazy?
It really is. It's I mentioned before on the program. It's a really remarkable honorific. It's like Academy Award winner or like you said, Nobel Prize winner. You always have that tag with you, no matter what, and it's very powerful. On Saturday, the Gators host Tennessee. What do you think of the current Florida program under Billy Napier, and how often are you around Gainesville these days?
Well, I've been around a little more the last couple of years, just for a variety of reasons. My schedule's lightened a bit, and my oldest son, goes to the University of Florida, so we try to get there as much as we can. I have been incredibly impressed with Coach Napier, who he is as a person, the program that he's building, the attention to detail in every single area is incredible to me. You could pick any aspect of anything that has to do that might help a football player or a team, and they have like a whole plan, a strategic plan for the year. They've got people in charge of it. They got who they're accountable for. It's really incredible. And of course, I think one of the biggest things you look for in a coach in this day and era is as the recruiting, and which way is that trending? Mm-hmm. And Florida's recruiting is just trending up in a huge way. Yeah. So really looking forward. This will be another huge game for us this year, early in the season, to kind of figure out where we stack this year. We got an incredibly hard schedule this year and even a harder one next year, but I love the way we're trending.
What do you think of all these changes in college football last 2 or 3 years? You have the conference realignment, and you have NIL, and you have the transfer portal. And do you ever just look at it, and of course the style of play and some of the rules changes? Do you ever just look at it and think, wow, this is so much different than when I played?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely feels and looks the whole landscape of college football different. I've got so many mixed feelings. I love the idea that the players are getting an access to have some opportunities to make money, but the way that it unfolded and the wild west of it, and the way that this idea of name, image, and likeness sort of turned into recruiting, and then added that with this transfer portal where you don't have to sit out. It's a very weird, and my sense is it's unsustainable the way it is. I think most people sense that there'll be some direction given in the future that hopefully will help. So there's a lot of things about it that I just don't get. I mean, I guess I get, but I just don't like. However, I will say last year and this year, like, I can't wait to watch a college football game. I can't wait to watch the Gators play. Like, there's still something amazing about it once the game gets going that I think has been preserved and hopefully can still over time.
So just one last question for you, a little bit out of left field. One of the hot new sports is pickleball, and apparently you were an early adapter of the sport, and it's kind of turned into bigger things. Tell me a little bit about your pickleball association.
Yeah, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country, and I've figured out why. Believe me, I started playing during COVID and have fallen in love with the sport. In fact, don't tell Gator fans, but it might be my favorite sport I've ever played. I absolutely love it, and this has brought a lot of joy to me. But also, it's become a big staple in opportunities that's created for Desire Street and the Wuerffel Foundation. And in fact, the timing here is interesting because we are getting ready to host on Tuesday, the 19th, the Pickle Bowl 2023. So, we've heard of the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl and the Super Bowl. Well, this is Pickle Bowl. That's right. We are it's a celebrity pro-am fundraiser where we pair the best pickleball players in the world with celebrities that have went to the same college. So one of the best players in the world is Kyle Yates, and he's a Florida Gator. So I'm playing with Kyle Yates. Last year, Drew Brees played for Purdue, and we're going to have probably 20 to 24 teams in this amazing live streamed event. That's all a fundraiser for the Wuerffel Foundation. And if you want to watch or be a part of it or support it, you go to picklebowl.net, picklebowl.net, and you can get all the information there and figure out how you can live stream and watch it. And support it if you want to. Maybe
it'll turn into a real bowl game in football eventually too. But
That's right.
Where is the Pickle Bowl going to be taking place?
This year it's in Atlanta, the new ITA facility here. A lot of pros will be coming and celebrities. We're going to have just a fantastic day, competition, fun, pickleball carnival, everything pickleball. Picklebowl.net.
Is it something that's gives you a competitive outlet? Because obviously you're a tremendous competitor, but that doesn't go away, right?
My wife would say that's an understatement. I absolutely love it. It's a thrilling sport to play. Anyone can play at any level of athletic ability. You could play, and yet it's also a fascinating and complex enough sport to have the best athletes in the world playing. It's like a video game with 1,000 levels. No matter where you are, it's exciting, and there's another level up with new challenges and things. So yeah, it's a great sport. I'm really glad it's picking up in steam around the country, and I love playing it and love all the opportunities it's presented for us with the foundation.
And that's September 19th in Atlanta, pickleball.net. If you want to watch Danny Wuerffel playing pickleball, this is your chance.
Well, there's a lot more cool people to watch than me. Rick Barry, the former Hall of Fame basketball player who shot underhanded,
right,
is a tremendous pickleball player in his older age. We've got professional volleyball players, actors, football players, baseball players, basketball players. It's going to be great.
Sounds like a fun time. Danny Wuerffel, my friend, thanks for coming on the official Heisman Trophy Podcast.
All right. Thank you.
The official Heisman Trophy Podcast streams every Wednesday during the college football season and is hosted, co-produced, edited, and engineered by Chris Houston. Paul Goldberg is the executive producer and editor. Special shout out to Isaac Lowenkron, and big thanks to the Heisman Trophy Trust and its executive director Rob Whalen and associate director Tim Henning. The official Heisman Trophy Podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find clips of our show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just go to @Heisman Trophy.